Hello, creative YouTube community. I made a video about liquid nitrogen flask, Dewar, which is just a fancy word for thermos, and I got a lot of emails. So even though I wasn't intending to make a video for this, I decided to go ahead and make a small video explaining how I went from this Freon disposable container to this liquid nitrogen Dewar flask. So as you can see, it's just a thermos, which I bought this at my local Walmart, and nitrogen is an inert gas, so this thermos can be used for other purposes. That's why I did it in this way, this matter. The only thing that you do have to remember is to make a hole on the cap so it does not build pressure. Remember, nitrogen, liquid nitrogen, is a gas and it sublimates, which in turn can be potentially dangerous and can cause personal and property damage. You must have a hole, 1/8 inch hole, 1/4 inch hole, whatever, just enough so the sublimation of the gas has means of escape. So some tools that you will need for this project is a grinder, an angle grinder, a drill, a jigsaw, gloves, safety glasses. Remember, PPE is extremely important. You can get hurt, and always use proper PPE. You will need a cutting disc, which is the thin one, and you will need a grinding disc, which is the thicker disc. Obviously, you will need primer and paint to give it that nice finish look to your Dewar, and you will need foam. You can buy this foam at any local home improvement store. So what you're going to do, you're going to take your cutting disc with your angle grinder, and you're going to cut these little handles. And you will put these handles aside. Then you're going to go ahead and proceed on cutting this valve. Once you cut that valve, you take your thermos, and you trace the circumference where you're gonna make the hole so your thermos can fit in there. So you can either use a jigsaw by making a small hole on the inside of the circle, drill a hole big enough so your blade fits, and go ahead and cut around it. Once you got the hole cut, the hole's going to be small. So you take your angle grinder and just nibble away till you get a good snug fit for your thermos. So once that is all said and done, you can go ahead and continue with the painting, the sanding, the prepping, the priming and painting. And well, wait a minute, before you paint, it's very important that you put your foam in first, because this foam is very messy. I'm going to show you the things what not to do to save you time, money, and a big mess. So once you put your foam in here, you can go ahead and proceed with your with the painting, the preparation for painting, and have it looking the way you want. This sticker you can get. I bought this one in Amazon. You can buy it wherever you can find it. By the way, I'm not being sponsored by any company or anybody, so you know, just be. It looks nice on there, and it gives it that really good presentation that it's for use for liquid nitrogen. So we will go ahead and get started with this little project, and I will show you the things that the things to avoid. The hole has already been cut, ground, and smooth. Notice how it's got a snug fit as I place it inside the cylinder. Also observe how the thermos sinks all the way to the bottom beneath the rim. I'm drilling holes big enough for the foam straw to fit so I can feed the foam inside the cylinder in hopes of having a uniform casting surrounding the whole thermos. Then I rolled up some paper and taped it like straws, and that would leave the cavity or the void, so the straw would go all the way to the bottom and fill the cylinder. Here is where the nightmare begins. Notice how I struggle pulling out those paper straws. The bottom is soft, mushy, and I have a hard time pulling those straws out. After many hours of working, sanding, priming, masking, and all that fun stuff, I am ready for the moment of truth. Expecting to find a perfectly casted foam, I was shocked to see that the end result was a big flop. So this is something you don't want to do. And the only reason I am putting this so you can see for yourself the big problem that this process caused. Apparently, foam needs oxygen for it to do its thing. And as you can see here, there's nothing but a big blob at the bottom of that cylinder. I realized I was back to square one. After many hours of prepping, masking, and running to the hardware store, I decided to take a different approach. I just emptied a can of foam inside the cylinder and just let it do its thing. After about 4 or 5 hours, the foam solidified, and I was able to successfully. Now that you've seen all of the stuff not to do, this is the easiest, fastest, and cleanest way to do the foam casting. What I did, I just put all of the foam. By the way, when I say straw, I'm referring to this spigot or nozzle. Anyways, you get the idea. So what I done is just dumped the whole can of foam in the bottom, and it took about maybe 4 or 5 hours, and eventually it swells up, and it just covers the whole thing. It kind of goes on the sides as well. Then I took a hacksaw. This is a ruler, and I'm using a ruler so you can actually see what I'm doing. But I took the hacksaw and cut the top off flush. Once that was gone, then I started cutting the sides. When I got that cut, I just took a big chunk out, and I started working my way at the bottom so I can get the proper height, so it would fit good and snug. And have that nice looking rim on the very, very edge of the thermos. So by doing it this way, it's going to save you a lot of time, and you won't end up working twice as much in Dewar flask for liquid nitrogen.